of prayer, of invocation, of meditation as is appropriate to your community. Sometimes prayer can be a difficult thing in an interfaith setting. Some can pray with others, some feel uncomfortable with that. I give you an opportunity to eavesdrop on my prayer as a Christian clergyman. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're praying along with me or not. But you can eavesdrop and say your own prayer in your own way as is appropriate to you. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for the blessings of friendship. We thank you for the blessing of this world that you have given us, filled with so many wonders, so much diversity, so many things that are different one from another. And yet, as people, we share so many things in common. And you desire our unity, that we work together in peace and harmony with justice for each one. But it is a difficult task for us, and tonight we make some efforts at trying to understand one another in the midst of our diversity, respecting our various traditions and faiths, and we ask you to bless us as we try to live in harmony and peace with one another. Bless this time, bless this food, that we might be strengthened to serve in your name. Be with us and guide us in the name of our Creator God. Amen.
Good evening, I'm Father Brendan Manson, and together with Pastor Doug Johnston, we'll be guiding you through this evening, which is sure to be full of delicious food, inspiration, and fellowship. I would like to take a moment to recognize some of our distinguished guests here with us this evening. We have Carol Warren, who is Mayor of Stanton. Carol, where are you here? We're also joined by the former mayor and councilman of Garden Grove, Bruce Broadweather. Bruce. I'd also like to recognize former mayor of Westminster, Joy Neubauer. Thank you very much for your presence here. This time I'd like to invite Andy Wynn to come forward.
Good evening, everyone. Namaste. Tonight, as Joyce said, we are very happy to have everyone here. This is a great opportunity. It's always around the table that we have the chance to interact, to greet each other in whatever the greeting is, but to be together. And if you had a look as you came in, we do have some beautiful silent auction items, and there are amazing things from Australia, some things from Native American plants, all kinds of things. Please have a chance at looking at those things while you're doing dinner. It's a way for us to raise money. Last year we gave $1,200 to the Japanese American Association, which helped with the relief efforts for the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. And so it's our way of helping to do good things. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Okay, the first moment you've been waiting for, which is our dinner hour, and I would invite these first three tables right here in front to first form a line right down the middle, and then you'll split off to left and right. The food is duplicated on each side, and there will be some handsome young gentleman there to kind of direct you as to where you should go. And just kind of watch the line as we move our way back. It should move along pretty rapidly, so I'd encourage these first three tables.
It's a mystery bag.
Mystery bag.
It's lessons for the tabla, how to play it. Great. I don't know who this gentleman in the room, but Tom Thorkelson is our winner of our second prize. Tom, it's wonderful to see you. Tom is one of the founding members of this Interfaith Council and many others. So always great to see you, Tom. I have my suspicions. It's fixed, I know. This says Tom. There's going to be trouble. All right. Our third winner is Debbie Herman. Our fourth and final winner of our door prize is Barbara George.
Barbara, I put it down here. Okay.
We've hidden your prize.
That's right. You work so hard, you deserve it.
I know many of you spend much of your day on your feet. Our speaker today has spent much of his life on his hands. Peter Vidmar is a gymnast, a great pride of the United States. He has been instrumental in the development of gymnastics here in the United States. Some of our young people here were not alive when his career ended in 1984. For many of us, however, we will never forget the Olympics of 1984. It was a turning point and an inspirational point in our history, particularly for sports in the United States and in the Olympics. Peter's the winner of numerous national and international titles. He finished his successful career in 1984 at the Olympic Games. As the USA men's gymnastics team captain, he led his teammates to America's very first team gold medal with their stunning and upset victory over the defending world champions, the Republic of China. He went on to win the silver medal in the individual all-around competition. This would be the first American who had ever won an Olympic all-around medal. And with a perfect score of 10, he captured the gold medal on the pommel horse. He is a renowned speaker and continues to be a commentator for gymnastics here in the United States and abroad. It is truly our honor to have here among us Mr. Peter Vidmar.
I don't see how I could possibly add to this program after what we've seen so far. A 500-year-old instrument, it would take me 500 years just to learn how to play that instrument. So I'm glad I stuck with gymnastics. Before I share something with you, I want to just let you know it's a privilege to be back here with the Garden Grove Interfaith Council. I spoke at the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast a number of years ago, so I see many familiar faces here. And I'll be honest with you, I've been involved in Interfaith throughout Orange County in various capacities, and I really think this is the finest one there is. I really do, and I mean that. I'm not just trying to give you platitudes. I'm just so impressed with what you do and the good that you provide for this community. I love this area. Actually, my wife grew up in Westminster and went to Westminster High School. And her mother, Ethel Harris, was the guidance counselor at Westminster High School, so I spent a lot of time here and trying to make my in-laws love me as I first started dating their daughter, and so it's great to be back. And great to be back in this area. I will tell you that I think my initial contact with this Interfaith Council came from two men of my faith tradition, David Lewis and Steve LaFond, who are wonderful men. And so when the invitation came, it was very, very easy to say yes. Now here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to share just a brief message with you today, but before I do, for those of you that were here a few years ago, I had a pommel horse here, didn't I? And I performed gymnastics for everyone. Now, I still can do that. I really can. But I thought it'd be better to show you what it was really like when I was at my best. So here's what I'm going to show you before we push play. I'm going to set the stage for you. And the young ones will, they have permission. Okay, all of you of all ages have permission to laugh at me. Here's the story. This video I found in my attic about 10 years ago, and my children, who are all either in or out of college, I lined them up on the couch. I had 5 children, and I said, "Hey, look, guys, I found a video of Dad at the Olympics, so let's watch it." As if they had a choice. And so I put the video in, and I pushed play. The first thing they said was, "Whoa, Dad, you're so young." And this video is actually the live coverage of the pommel horse finals in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Now, just to set the stage, going into the finals, I was tied with a gymnast from China by the name of Li Ning. And he went up before me in the finals and scored a perfect 10. Now, I'm pretty good at math. So I knew that to tie him for the gold medal, I had to score a perfect 10, which meant that as soon as my leg or toe overlapped the other toe, as soon as my knee bent, as soon as I took a step on the landing, then I wouldn't win the gold medal. It had to be perfect. So naturally, of course, you would imagine that I would begin this performance giving it everything I had to do it as perfectly as I possibly can. Well, for those of you that have ever run track and field, what happens if you run as fast as you can in the first 300 meters of a 400-meter race? You're going to die at the end. And so I performed it as best I could, but at the end I started to feel that burning sensation in my stomach as I was starting to fatigue, and I had a very difficult dismount to perform, and I started to panic. I thought, oh no, Peter, you went out too hard, and I have to do a really hard dismount. What are you going to do? Now I had an option. An option was to do an easier dismount, play it safe, but the judges, knowing me as an athlete, would know that I watered down my routine, and I probably wouldn't merit the perfect 10. But at least I would guarantee a medal. Or I could take my chances, do the difficult dismount, and hope that I do it right and correctly, and then maybe have a chance for the gold. But if I make a mistake, I won't win any medal at all. I had a decision to make in the middle of the performance. And I remember saying, Peter, you do what you trained. And so I continued. I decided to go for the harder dismount. I landed my dismount, and I wasn't sure, after all that emotional turmoil, if it was good enough for the 10. So I emotionally resigned myself to the silver medal. I said, Peter, that's okay. You got a silver medal. That's great. Be proud. Be happy. That's okay. And then the score flashed, and then you see my reaction, and that's when my children fell off the couch laughing. So let's go ahead and anyways. So I thought I'd share that with you. Now, as I thought about a message I could share with you, I thought I'd really depart from what I would usually talk about and what I have spoken about, even at the previous prayer breakfast, because I think I recall the message that I delivered then. But I guess as I age, I think a lot about this life I've been able to enjoy in sports, and maybe I think a little bit deeper now than I did about really what can happen when we work together and when athletes meet together in a situation like this. For example, I look at what Interfaith does and the wonderful blessings that you provide for your community as you work together, as you find common ground, as you find ways that you can improve your community and build bridges of understanding. And yet I think about the Olympic movement. And if you think about it, what does this Olympic Games do? What will we see in London, for example? We're going to see athletes from all over the world. We're going to see athletes of all different religious backgrounds. Some with no religious background. Some from opposing ideologies, from completely different political and economic systems. All coming together peacefully to play games together. And there really is no other single event in the world that involves more nations, more individuals, and more youth from nations together than the Olympic movement. And so certainly there are drawbacks and there's unpleasantries about competition at times. And yet it does make a wonderful statement to the world. And this is kind of a microcosm of what we might see that takes place, for example, in London. And so with that, though, let's think about all the major sporting events that we watch on television, for example, in America. We think about the Super Bowl or the World Series. We're in the middle of the NBA Finals. I don't know if anybody's got a radio listening to the Laker game right now, but we'll see. We've got the Stanley Cup, for example, and the Kings have a chance to go to the Stanley Cup, depending on what happens, I believe, tomorrow. But if you think about this, only one major sporting event begins with the athletes taking an oath to play fairly and with sportsmanship. So at the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games in London, one athlete representing all athletes will hold a corner of the Olympic flag, and he'll repeat these exact words. In the name of all competitors, I promise we shall take part in these Olympic Games, respecting and abiding by the rules which govern them, committing ourselves to a sport without doping and without drugs, in the spirit of true sportsmanship, for the glory of sport and the honor of our teams. And then an official, representing all judges and officials, gives a similar oath on behalf of all officials. And only after that do the games officially begin. I find that remarkable when we think about all the other sports that are played out there. Now, sadly, of course, as you know, that oath has been broken many times. And we only have to look at recent headlines to know that in the modern Olympic Games that we are not free from seeing unethical behavior or athletes that abuse drugs for performance enhancing and other things that can and have taken place. But when I look back in my research on ancient Olympic Games, they had their problems too. In fact, the earliest recorded cheater at the Olympic Games was Eupolis of Thessaly, who bribed boxers in the 98th Olympiad. Callippus of Athens bought off his competitors in the pentathlon competition during the 112th festival. And listen to this. The Emperor Nero didn't even finish the chariot race, but was declared the winner. Now that's power. Now, having said that, there are many, often untold stories and inspiring examples of individuals and teams who, while striving to be the very best they could at their sport, didn't lose sight of being a very good person as well. Let me just give you just a few examples, some you may be familiar with. We think back on the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin. One of America's most celebrated athletes, Jesse Owens, competing in the long jump. I've done some research. This story, there is some disputes about some of the details of this story, but I want to share with you a message at the end about this. But Jesse Owens had faulted on his first two jumps, meaning he had gone over the line. And so when an athlete faults on a jump, they don't even measure the tape. It's just declared a non-jump. He had one jump left. Lutz Lang of Germany, of Hitler's Germany, walked up to him and suggested that he put a rolled-up towel and stick it just about a foot behind the takeoff pad. To give him a little bit of buffer, he said, shoot for that towel. Don't go for the takeoff pad. So it gave him a little chance to reset his thinking. He took off before it and ended up becoming the Olympic champion, and Lutz Lang took the silver medal. Now, they became lifelong friends for many years. However, 8 years later, Lutz Lang died in 1943 while fighting in World War II. But a final letter that he wrote to Jesse Owens reads, in part, "Someday, find my son. Tell him about how things can be between men on this earth." End quote. 32 years later, an almost identical story took place in the long jump in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. Now, Bob Beamon and Ralph Boston were America's two best long jumpers at the time. Ralph Boston was a world record holder, and Bob Beamon had faulted on his two first qualifying jumps. And Ralph Boston then told Bob, "What foot are you taking off on?" "Well, I'm starting on my right." "Just take off on your left foot. It'll make you that much shorter on the pad. You won't hit the pad. You'll be okay." And he did. He made the jump. He was qualified into the finals, and then in the Olympic finals was one of the greatest athletic feats in Olympics history, when Bob Beamon broke the world record by almost 2 feet in the long jump, and his record stood for 23 years. But all because his teammate chose to help him, which gave him a little bit of an edge over him, and Ralph Boston ended up with the silver medal in those Olympic Games. Now, one of the most accomplished Olympians in history is a discus thrower by the name of Al Order, who is a friend of mine who recently passed away. Al is the only athlete to have won his event in 4 consecutive Olympic Games. He won the discus in 1956, 1960, 1964, and in 1968. At the 1960 Rome Olympics, Al Order was the slight favorite over his teammate and current world record holder, Rink Babka. And Order was the defending Olympic champion, as I said, having won in 1956. And after 4 rounds, Rink Babka was in the lead. Now, being a teammate of Al Order's, Rink noticed that something was a little bit off in Al's technique on his throw, and Al was not doing that well. Rink decided to go up and tell him what he thought he was doing wrong, to give him that little extra tip. And what happened next was Al Order threw the discus 59.16 meters, 194 feet 2 inches, to set an Olympic record. And Rink was never able to catch that mark, and ended up with a silver medal behind his teammate, who he helped. Let me just give you one more uplifting example. We're going to go to the Winter Olympic Games now. At the 1964 Winter Olympics in Innsbruck, Austria, the clear favorite in the 4-man bobsled event were the Austrians and the Italians. However, the Canada number 1 team was not expected to win, but on the very first run, they broke the Olympic record down that track and was leading after the first heat. But on the very last turn of that first run, they hit the ice wall, which caused damage to the axle of the sled. So if the axle couldn't be fixed, then their quest for the Olympic gold was over. So imagine the worry, but then the surprise, as the Canadian driver got to the top of the mountain 15 minutes before his final run, only to find his sled upside down, and the Canadian athletes and the Italian athletes, with Eugenio Monti, who was a legendary driver of the Italian sled, taking their sled apart, working on it, and trying to fix it. As a result, they fixed the sled, and Canada won, was able to race and hold on to its lead and win the gold medal. And Italy's Eugenio Monti and his team took home the bronze medal. And the story gets better. A few days later, in the 2-man bobsled event, Tony Nash of Great Britain recorded the fastest run in the very first heat. But a bolt attaching the runners, the blades to the shell, was sheared off in that run. And just before Eugenio Monti took his sled down the track, he shouted out, "Get an Englishman and a Spaniard to the finish line, and they can have my bolt after my run." After his run, he removed the bolt from his own sled, had it brought up to the mountain to be attached to the British bobsled, and Tony Nash and his partner Robin Dixon took home the gold medal for Great Britain, and Eugenio Monti took home the bronze medal. Once again, he didn't win. For his sportsmanship, Monti was awarded the Pierre de Coubertin Award for Fair Play. Now, although Eugenio Monti was viciously criticized by the Italian media, he was firm in his conviction that he did the right thing. He said, and I quote, "Nash didn't win because I gave him the bolt," he said. "He won because he had the fastest run down the mountain," end quote. So I've kind of spent some time researching, trying to find just uplifting stories, and I keep finding them of athletes that were not just great athletes, but they were great people as well. They understood what it means to pursue excellence at the very highest level and not to forget to help others achieve their dreams as well. These people are my heroes. My coach taught me once that if I ever wanted help in life, I have to be willing to give help. And when teams and when individuals work together, everyone improves, and that's what I call win-win. Now, let me just finish with one story that in some ways comes from my faith tradition. Now I'm going to go back to World War II, and the story is told that in May of 1940, over 300,000 British, French, and Belgian troops were trapped by the German army on the beaches in Dunkirk. There seemed to be very little reason to believe that they would survive. But for reasons still unexplained, the Germans briefly withdrew to regroup, which gave them some time. And a British officer sent a message to England, I guess by Morse code, of just 3 words: "But if not." Now, those are commonplace words, but they were oddly chosen. But the British commander who received the message knew exactly what he meant. These 3 words come from the Old Testament book of Daniel. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar had set up a vast image of gold and commanded that the people were to fall down and worship it. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, faithful to their God's commandment that they worship no other God, they knew that if they did not obey King Nebuchadnezzar, that they could be cast into a fiery furnace. And the king said, "And who is the God that will deliver you out of my hands?" And the 3 young men replied, If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. Now, why do I tell you this story? In essence, I believe that when that message, "But if not," was sent, it meant, send help. Maybe God will save us. But if not, know that we will not bow down or capitulate to Nazism. And what matters to me more is that looking back on these 70 years since that time, was that the deliverer of the message and the man that received the message knew what it meant. Because they were what I would call scripturally literate. They knew the sacred writings of their faith tradition and what it meant to them. That meant that somewhere in their youth, they were taught in their home, in their house of worship, or in their school, or in a combination of those environments, to take heed to what they considered sacred writings that would bring them closer to God. Whether those writings come from the Quran, or from the Bible, or from the Torah, or any of the writings that you feel are sacred, when we adhere to those principles that we learn, we connect more with the divine. We become closer to that which we worship. And hopefully, we have a moral compass to guide us in our lives. That moral compass is needed now more than any other time. That's why I honor this organization and any interfaith organization that seeks to work together, to find common ground, to do good, and to make a difference. And I believe and hope that it was that moral compass that leads you to be in this setting, in this environment, and to go back from an evening like this and to find other areas where we can work together and make lives better for those around us. I honor you for your faith. I honor you for the goodness that is in you, and for that which leads you to that goodness. And I'm so grateful to be here and spend time with you. And I'm thrilled even more to sit down now and to hear of so many good works as we honor many of you that are sitting in this audience today. So have a wonderful evening. It would be a privilege to come back and spend time with you again. I just think this is a wonderful group, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
With the certificate of appreciation on all that you do on behalf of our country and in bringing people of all different faith traditions together. I hope you have room for that with all of your other awards.
Now we come to the part where you have to do something, not just sit there. So if you turn to your folders there, and just on the next page for the program of events, there's what we call a ritual of unity and celebration of our diverse faith communities. This is a tradition that began at our very first banquet. And we've modified it a bit over the years, but it gives each faith community an opportunity to present some object that in some ways says something about their faith, and then also gives them the opportunity to say a few words about their faith community. Very few words. Keep it brief because there's quite a number of us. So I'd ask those of you who are going to present an object and to speak to begin to line up over here on this side, and then we'll take each one.
Margarita was nominated this evening because of her dedicated work as a counselor for Interval House Domestic Violence Shelter throughout Orange County. Her dedication to the families of Orange County who have been victims of domestic violence has been remarkable. Her concern reaches far beyond just doing her job, but comes from a place in her heart where she can feel others' pain and is able to soothe it through education, support, and mentoring. We thank you, Margarita Merlo, and we congratulate you for this award. Thank you. Pam Schower is director of the Boys and Girls Club of Stanton, and she was nominated because of her tireless effort in working with our young people in the city of Stanton, as well as the Lions Club, and her involvement in the many communities in the programs, including the Stanton Foundation and Santa Siren, and her collaboration with the Stanton Family Resource Center. We thank you for all you do in putting into action the spirit of interfaith. Perhaps unbeknownst to some, the Garden Grove Police Department has been a constant support to the activities and programs of the Interfaith Council for over the past 15 years. Their openness to the many faith communities in the city is an inspiration and a model, particularly for all of us as leaders of faith communities. To remind us that interfaith dialogue is something that we all do together and involves the community. We'd like to congratulate and thank the Garden Grove Police Department.
Yes. If I could just say one thing. On behalf of all the members of the police department, I'd like to thank the Interfaith Network for recognizing us, thanking us, because I think our department is reflective of the community that we serve. But I really accept this award tonight in the memory of Steve LaFont. We really are our police department's involvement with the Interfaith Network and the spiritual relationship we have with this community because of Steve LaFont. Steve LaFont planted that seed more than 15 years ago. And I know it's been 5 years since we lost Steve, a little bit more than that. But I accept this in the memory of Steve. Thank you.
And our fourth recipient is the City of Garden Grove, which is awarded the Spirit in Action Award because of its unwavering support as well for interfaith activities. The support has allowed for the birth of the Interfaith Council, as well as a genuine effort to promote cross-cultural and interfaith dialogue. As the City of Garden Grove has shown us great insight into the need for dialogue and openness to the many faith communities that bless this great city of Garden Grove. Thank you and congratulations.
The City of Garden Grove has been involved in the Interfaith Council right from the beginning. We feel that we've got one of the best councils there are, and we have so many men, so many people from different communities. It's just unbelievable. And we thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of Garden Grove.
Just a moment.
And now we have youth awards. As we know, the youth are our future. And as Peter Vidmar says, it is not difficult to find great things that are going on in our community. And this is no exception here as well. We'd like to invite the 3 award winners of our Community Builders Awards to please come forward. They are Vivian Sid, Gilberto Jr. Davila, and Jessica Duarte. Will you please come forward?
Just a word about each one of our recipients and about why they're receiving these awards. Gilberto is a 16-year-old junior at Westminster High School. Junior has been a member of the Boys and Girls Club for many years. He's been very active in his Keystone Youth Leadership Club, where he volunteers over 20 hours a month. He loves to play basketball for his Boys and Girls Club team, where he helps develop skilled players. Alberto also coaches an elementary school basketball team where he mentors the youth, teaches them the skills he learned in the same gym years ago. Not only does he give them the skills they need to compete, but he also teaches them about teamwork, fair play, and respect on and off the court. Alberto's future goals consist of graduating from high school, going to the University of North Carolina, and studying sports medicine. He often states that when he's older, he wants to help give back to the places that have given so much to him. That's the fascinating part about this young man, his selflessness. He seems to always be thinking of others. When he's around, an air of energy, lighthearted humor, and goodwill generally follows. He's respected by his peers and adored by staff. If Mr. Davila continues on his path, focusing on kindness towards others, go very far in all his endeavors. Vivian is a 12-year-old who's in 6th grade at Carver Elementary School and lives in Stanton. Her mother and Vivian just recently moved to an apartment. Before this, they've been renting one room in a home. They now have their own place, and it's good for them both. Vivian has been coming to the Boys and Girls Club of Stanton since she was in the 1st grade at Carver. Vivian has always been a very kind and quiet young lady. Vivian is a very good friend to her friends and a person that you can count on to help. Vivian is not the type of child who asks what they will receive if they do a favor for you. She's the student who always says, "Sure," with a smile on her face. This type of behavior is a unique asset to have, as so many children today always think in order to do something for someone else, there must be something in return. Vivian never raises her voice in anger when upset and always speaks softly when spoken to or when speaking. This young student is always respectful to all the Boys and Girls Club of Stanton staff and is a tutor in the Club Learning Center. She loves helping our staff, Linda, by tutoring and helping younger members with their homework and reading. She has been chosen as the Youth of the Month in several of the club departments and is in our Healthy Girls program that we offer to girls ages 10 and up. In fact, right now the girls are trying to raise funds in the Great American Bake Sale, national effort to end childhood hunger in America by 2015. One of our main focuses of this group of girls is to be happy with yourself, to be kind to each other, and to give back to others in your community. I cannot say enough about Vivian. Vivian's a good student, a great role model, and I know she'll go far when it comes to her life. Vivian's a great girl. And Jessica is the oldest sibling that currently resides in her household. Jessica has become an indispensable source of support, leadership, and inspiration for her siblings. Jessica has a keen understanding that her role as an older sister holds an important sphere of influence that directly shapes the development of her younger sisters. Recognizing that there are two highly impressionable children at home who hold her in high esteem only pushes Jessica to model excellence at all times. She's committed to their academic and social endeavors. Therefore, even after a long day of completing a laundry list of high school commitments, projects, and homework, Jessica makes it a point to carve out key moments of the day to aid in homework assistance or provide encouragement for her sisters. For Jessica, family is the priority. As a result, on the weekends, Jessica can often be found foregoing the trivialities of teenage life to spend time with her entire family. It's this selflessness that helps to define her role within the home. Jessica strives to be more than a great sister. She strives to be an exceptional daughter. Throughout her youth, Jessica has proven to be responsible, thoughtful, and mature. For those reasons, her parents often include her in the decision-making process that affect the family as a whole. This simple example clearly illustrates the leadership role she exercises within her household. Although this is an important role, Jessica does not underrate any household or familial task given to her, and is the first to offer her help whenever needed, often without being asked. As busy as she may be, she acknowledges that her parents work even harder for her and her siblings, and so we honor her today.
In addition to the award and a little spending money, they're also receiving a certificate of recognition from the Interfaith Council of Garden Grove, Stanton, and Westminster. They've also received a certificate of recognition by the City of Garden Grove, signed by our Mayor, Bill Dalton. And finally, a certificate of appreciation from the California Legislative Assembly, signed by our Assemblyman, Chris Norby. Again, congratulations and thank you. Very impressive. For those who were awarded, our 4 recipients for the Interfaith Spirit in Action Award, we also have more gifts, awards from you as well, your certificates, which will be over here on the table. We will now conclude our silent auction.
Spirit into our community, that we may share with one another, that we may encourage one another, that we might truly build a community that is in harmony and that is able to live and eat with each other in peace. Having multiple faith communities live in such close proximity to one another as we have here in Southern California is an almost unique experience in the history of the world. And I think we have an opportunity to show that we can do better than what has been the historical result of so many faith communities living in close proximity, that it not lead to the kind of violence and prejudices toward one another that has so often been more the rule rather than the exception. And so we appreciate and encourage you, thank you for having come this evening so that we might share with one another. And Father, okay, well, I didn't realize I was having the last word tonight. It's been great to have you here tonight, and may you go with the peace of the Lord. Thank you.